What is the Abomination Desolation? Natural man says it's connected to the rebuilding of the temple in Israel. That's kind of sort of true, but not really. It's another one of those things that's hard to understand. And the truth is, nobody really knows what Jesus is talking about. But I do. And I'm going to tell you right now. Hey, I'm author Michael Ramsey, and this is Michael Ramsey Books, where I show people how to transform their ordinary relationship with God into a spiritual one. If you haven't already subscribed, be sure to hit the red subscribe button and ring the notification bell now. Mark 13:14. When you see the abomination that causes desolation standing where it should not be, let the reader understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. The first thing that's interesting about this verse is the phrase, let the reader understand. It wouldn't have made sense for Jesus to refer to the people standing right next to him listening as readers. Obviously, this phrase was inserted later by Mark, but it is of no less importance. Since the Lord directed the hands of those who wrote, it is just as, if not more, important. Now, there are some other phrases similar to this in the Bible, many of which relate to end times, talking about the beast. In Revelation 13:8, John says, let him who has an ear hear. And in verse 18, we see something similar again. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, which is 666. So right away, when Jesus is talking about the abomination desolation, we're being told explicitly, just as when Don talks about the beast and the number 666. This is something that takes wisdom and insight to understand. In other words, it is spiritually discerned. Without the movement of the Holy Spirit in your spirit, you would not be able to comprehend what John, Mark, and Jesus, who is the speaker through John and Mark, is talking about. So, just what is Jesus talking about when he prefaces it with the phrase, let the reader understand? What John is talking about in Revelation 13 is, of course, something a little, but just a little, different than what Mark is talking about. I made a video about each of these passages, which I'll leave a link to in the description below. But even though they're all a little different, they're basically dealing with the same kinds of events. The clue in Mark 13 is the temple. In other videos and in the book, The Spiritual Christian, that I'm working on, I go into great detail about the concept of modeling. Modeling is the key to understanding this verse. The mistake most people make is they think about the temple of Israel as the subject, but they have it all wrong. Our body is also referred to as the temple of the Holy Spirit, 1 Corinthians 6:19. Thus, our body is the subject and the temple is the model. So what Jesus is talking about in Mark is the destruction of men. This is the abomination. Reclaiming, rebuilding, and rededicating the temple, what natural man is focused on, that's not it. It is the destruction of men, vaccinations that change your DNA, reprogramming people's body and brain, and other poisons being unleashed into the environment by airplanes high in the sky that leave behind a trail of fog that fogs your brain and destroys your health. This is what Jesus is talking about. But how does that relate back to the destruction of the temple? The temple was destroyed and rebuilt several times. Each time it was destroyed because of Israel's sin. Because of their sin, the enemy was allowed to penetrate the city and destroy the temple. The abomination is what wicked men are doing to mankind today. The desolation is what happens afterwards. You see, if you say Jesus is strictly talking about the temple, then sure, the abomination part makes perfect sense. But the desolation part doesn't. When a building is destroyed, we don't say it's desolate now. We say it's destroyed. There's nothing left, and there's nothing left to be desolate. The temple is merely the model that helps us see what's happening to mankind. If you haven't already subscribed to Michael Ramsey Books, be sure and do so now. That way you don't miss a single video. Can't wait until next time. Like me on Facebook. And visit my other channel, Michael Ramsey Travels, and my website, michaelramseybooks.com.